I uploaded the last one by Dr. Said. So you can see it on the screen, and also you can download it. So please.
So is it clear in front of you now, please?
Yes, that's great.
Okay. So thank you very much again. So I'm lucky to speak twice. I wanted to say first, before I talk, really, I would like to thank you, Satoshi, for something. The selection of the three topics are really too much related. They are surrounding Al Jazeera and Sham, surrounding the Middle East, and they are too much related. And that's why, as you notice from my colleagues, that when they were talking, that they touched a little bit, East Mediterranean, the Middle East, so they are all connected. I will try to talk very briefly because I would like to give opportunity to Eric to give some comments, as really is too much specialist in the region, as he's defense attaché for the 6 Gulf countries in addition to Iran and Yemen. So maybe he can fulfill more. That's why I will talk very quickly, if you don't mind. And I will not mention a lot of things, but you can find in my paper, you can find everything. Okay, this is what I will talk about. When I will talk about the importance of the region, for sure I will not repeat what Eric said, because he talked about international importance. I will talk about the regional importance, how it is important to the regional actors. And if you agreed with me what I mentioned in the very beginning, when I said that it's now really the true thing that is reformulating the regional order. It's not only for the Middle East, but also for the other regions around, including the East Mediterranean, including Sahel and Sahara, including what we are talking about right now in East of Africa. So if we agree on that, then I can continue the same way. Okay, so I believe that this geographical location is very important to all acting, or this, what can I say, the regional actors, not only because it's connecting Red Sea, Indian Ocean, Africa, even with Europe up to North and West, but it's also for them because it's full a lot of wealth. It has its huge strategical location, and also it's something like, which I call the cantonment of seaports. Not usual seaports, but on the main passage for all shipping, for trade and commerce and even military reasons of movement, for all over the world. So it's very important to them if they would like to be existing in this region. And for sure, this region, it has, how can I say, the global strategies, which has been issued by USA, by Russia, by China, by Europe. So I think this region is key country for them. That's why if I'm regional actors, I would like to meet their strategies. So I think this will be the good location to meet them. Maritime strategic positioning, especially for Djibouti. As we know, it's full of military bases. And I heard one time when I was visiting, I was working in the United States Central Command in Tampa, but I was visiting my officers in the, which we call it Advanced Command in Djibouti. So they told me that Djibouti is very happy, and one of the income of the country and the good relations and the gravity, center of gravity of the country, is that it's really located here, full of the military bases of strong powers and regional powers as well. And for sure, it's good for investment and it has a lot of wealth. So we will not talk much about that. And then I will go directly how I see the main goals for each country of the actors. And forgive me, I will talk about, I think, 8 countries. So I will try to be brief, as I mentioned. So I think for Israel, Eilat also is important. It's like blocked area, I mean, when you come from the Red Sea, and I was working as liaison officer with Israeli Defense Force in Taba in 1994-95. So I remember how much it was really important to them, and they would like to enlarge the international navigation to Eilat. And that's why it was important. It's still important to them. And, as Israel, I would like to see my competitors, and I would like to find them in this region, because Iran is the main competitor to Israel, as you know, it's even enemy. And you know, the maritime traffic, as I told you, for them it's coming to the Mediterranean Sea. Why not? He had to find some way to go to the Mediterranean Sea as well, not only Suez Canal. So it could be somehow competitor to Egypt in this issue. Iran, you know, this is Bab al-Mandab. It's very important to them because it's not only Hormuz. Iran would, I mentioned before in my lectures, even with you, Satushi, when I was saying that it needs two main bridges. One of them to Bab al-Mandab, which is the Red Sea. The other one is to the Mediterranean. The first one is through Yemen. The other one is through Syria and Lebanon. Turkey, you know, influence is very important, same like Iran and Israel, but its influence is because Turkey, I think, is thinking more than regional, more than other, it's thinking international. Turkey would like to be international power, really great power. They work on this way. Yes, some obstacles meet them, but they still continue on this. Remember, they have a military base in Qatar, military base in Somalia. They think about military base, not in Sawakin, but maybe in Port Sudan, which is more eligible to that. They think about military base also in Libya. It's not still military base, but they are on a step for that, and maybe in South Africa as well. So this is more international than regional. But here, one of the key areas is the Horn of Africa for sure. Ethiopia knows all of that. And it has main problem now is Egypt, and they would like to be needed by all regional actors, even international actors. So they would like to say, we are the key country in this key area. We are more influential even in Somalia. And that's why they try to build up 4 seaports in Djibouti. Reconciliation, or let me say peace, or coming back to relation with Eritrea is very important to them because they lost it after, you know, taking Eritrea away from Ethiopia. Saudi Arabia. I mentioned before about strategic depth. Strategic depth, I believe it's specific area to secure my country. There is internal and external. One of the weak external strategic depths to Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries, but Saudi Arabia more, is the southwest, which is this region. It's very important to them because it's also the basket of the food, you know, food for their food security, and other Gulf countries, but Saudi Arabia is the biggest one, so they are caring more about this issue, and water even for sure. Emirates, seaports. Always I would say, if you would like to know how Emirates think, follow up with the head of the seaport authority in Emirates. So whenever you find him, visit some place, good, this is the new vision, this is the new extension of thinking of Emirates strategy. And I think this is one of the main areas to expand this kind of vision. And you know, for sure, yes, securing the international shipping, because seaports mean shipping. And remember, Socotra, this is very small, but really very important, because the water still competitor, not only to Emirates, but as economic competitor, but security-wise, against China by USA. So it's because it watched the water. And why the water? The water, you know, China is very big, you know more than me for sure. And the west side, they need to be fed from the water, which is west as well. So it's shorter distance to China from the west, which is the water. So the water must be under somehow control or supervision by intelligence, could be in Socotra. So here Emirates playing very big role. Egypt for sure, because you know, it's not only Bab al-Mandab, it's not only Horn of Africa, but Suez Canal. Without Suez Canal, nothing to be done. And for Egypt, without Bab al-Mandab, nothing to win or nothing for movement. I give you a very small example of Suez Canal, how it's important, military-wise, connected even with Horn of Africa. Did anybody ask himself if there any war will happen between Turkey and Egypt? One of the reasons no is Suez Canal will be closed to Turkey. Because if war between two countries, no, one of them is Egypt, you can yet use Suez Canal. So here, one of the points, by the way, and you can see now how this region is very important to Egypt as well. And that's why Egypt tried to find some ways has good in South Sudan. It's increasing, you know, the relations now after what's going on, this new regional order was good with Sudan against Ethiopia, but it needs more, as you know, even within the overlooking countries, which is headed by Saudi Arabia and the Horn of Africa, on the Red Sea, I'm sorry. Qatar, you know, it's really, really locked for these last 3 years, I think, but in the same time, it would like to find a place for competition and influence. And dividing this crack, the split in the Gulf, really increase more competition everywhere, including this region. So if I see now, as I'm showing here, how is the relations? You know, you find we have these 3 regional powers, and we have 5 countries which I mentioned. We have Israel, Turkey, and Iran. Yes, and we know now the relation among them. It's really, how can I say, very clever and tactful relations, I can say now. And really, we need to talk about it more, especially Iran and Turkey, but Israel in the middle. Very important here. If I come to the others, Qatar is the only country, has very good relation with the 3 regional powers. Egypt, Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Ethiopia, if I say it's actor, they are not, okay, they don't have good relation with each of them. So this is good for Qatar, and good to have good relations even with Ethiopia, and especially in Somalia. These are the hobbits I can see, and I think there are more, because really I did it very quickly, but I can say, see, Somaliland, always I say, I have been asking before, why Somalia to be divided? Why Yemen to be divided? I think one of them, Horn of Africa, one of them, the entrance of the Red Sea and Gulf Eden, because the government of Somalia and government of Yemen agree together on one thing, so it will be against one of the 2 competitors. If they agree to have, they are together, for example, let me say, when it was Qatar and others, so with Qatar, so it will be against Egypt and its competitor, and vice versa. So that's why governments there must be, you know, find some, and also, you know, this kind of dividing, it increases the part of influence, because I cannot be in Somalia, Turkish bases over there. So I have to find another way, just maybe with, it's not new dividing, right, by the way, but we can exploit it somehow with our allies, I say Egypt, Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and so on. So this is how I see Rivalry. And very quick again, I can say that I divided in three main, as I'm showing right now, which is economic, political, military, and information environment. So mainly, I can see really Israel was thinking how to increase our technology, because our areas of interest, they need technology, especially in agriculture, food. Remember, drought in Somalia, which maybe can come to Ethiopia somehow. Even they have a lot of rains right now, but you know, this is changing climate. We don't know. North of Africa as well, changing climate will do a lot. So Israel was thinking in this way. And the high technology in agriculture, as I mentioned. And Netanyahu in Ethiopia declared that. In Iran, as I mentioned, they need a place for influence. Turkey is the same, but and especially in Ethiopia and Somalia, they need them because they are against their competitors. Military-wise, we find training by Israel, we find army sale by Israel. Also, we find, you know, this brokerage of army sales by Iran, and brokers in Yemen, and this participation in anti-piracy. But by the way, Iran is, I'm sorry, what I mentioned here is something like it was a part of piracy, and they have had some connection with Mujahideen, which is against to the other side, which they are fighting always political Islam or armed Islam, which most of them prescribe terrorists. So, and we can find that Turkey, as I mentioned, that the military base in Somalia. And information, by the way, many agencies, humanitarian, media, news, multi-language, media from Turkey and even Iran, Israel. And by the way, even Egypt now produced something in Amharian to do and, to talk Amharian, which is the language of Ethiopia, if you know that. So I put Qatar on one side and UAE, IGSDA, Egypt on the other side. But, as I said, strategy of seaports led by UAE is one of the big part of economic influence, which also supports security and military influence, as I mentioned, even not only within Yemen, but also to have some of kind of, sensors for spionage, specific military base, we can say in Assab, and maybe they try in Djibouti, as I said. Egypt is trying to participate in that, funded maybe by other allied countries like Emirates or Saudi Arabia. But as I told you for info, so Al Jazeera is doing a big job, English and French, but I didn't mention here, it's Egypt, as I said, in Amharian language, and we can find Saudi Arabian Emirates. They produce some channels in other language. Sometimes we don't know that they belong to them, but they are also here, in this region. Final remarks. Let me tell you, if we believe that along with the three major powers, okay, which is USA, Russia, and China, we have Israel, Turkey, and Iran. They would like to, as I said, formulate the regional order of this region. But Egypt is also there. When it comes with KSA, UAE, and Qatar. But what is the problem here? As I said before in the beginning, that the games or rules of the games depend mostly more big powers and regional powers. So when it comes with other actors, so it leads to something which I call it creates a lot of rivalry, more complicated competitions among different levels of actors, international, regional, and acting states or Arab states as well. Not only that, but this crack in the Gulf, in the Arab League, which represented by these four Arab countries now in this region in influence competition, I think it created another level of regional rivalry. This created what I can call it lack of management of influence. Because when it was managed by superpowers or major powers and by regional powers, which are regular regional powers, Israel, Iran, and Turkey, and then when it comes to this level, so it will be lack of management of influence according to the rules of the games which are used to be followed. And this lack of management of influence really make threats to the regional security and increase instability of the region, of this region. And that's why China is a big loser in this case, because they are not trained, they are not practiced to deal with this kind of even regular influence, military or political. So what about chaos of influence? Very, very, very difficult to them. This is a big trouble. We believe it's not good, but maybe it's very bad to China as well to continue. Sorry. Turkey is a very strong player. This is one of the main conclusions I would like to say. And I mentioned before, Turkey really international player. They have big issue to do. But I would like to say something. This is like a message to NATO. Turkey is a member in NATO. Turkey tried before to be a member of European Union. But do you really agree as NATO that Turkey to enlarge its power like this, to exploit it? Or it will be headed for you as Turkey continued it on its own policy and maybe becomes like competitor or enemy somehow on the Russian side. So this enlarging of the Turkish capability, if really you think you will continue with Turkey, good. But if you believe with the grand strategy that Turkey will be somehow apart. So it will be big disaster to the Western side. This is all from my side, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Said. And there are multiple influences exerted from within the region or neighboring region and internationally. And Eric, one of the points Said emphasized is the lack of influence management, and particularly Turkey's outstanding role. And obviously Turkey is part of NATO, allies, and Rick, you are, in my understanding, you are coordinating NATO's, activity in the Gulf region, So, what is your comment, first response to Dr. Sai's presentation?
Firstly, to say it was a very good presentation with a lot of points and on. I would like to just to address a few extra points. Firstly, it's a very complicated region, I would say. Normally, it has to be very easy because it's only about, for the major power, for example, initially about interest, about the Red Sea, not about the aside. The country aside are more to sustain this high priority. I would like to mention that so when you are speaking about the three major powers, and you are speaking about like this regional power, like Israel, Turkey, and so on, and Iran, you cannot understand what's happening in the region if you are not looking what's happening in the Arabian Persian Gulf. If you don't look at Syria, if you don't look at Eastern Mediterranean, if you don't look at Libya, all are interconnected. So if you are just looking to the Red Sea, you will finally find, like I did, just, okay, there are these economical interests, the waterways and so on, but you will not understand why each country is competing each other. It's very important to know. If you see, for example, Russia and Turkey, the relationship, it's very, very strange because, of course, Russia needs Turkey, for example, to get escape to the Mediterranean, because you have the Black Sea and you have a Strait of Dardanelles. It's in the end of Bosphorus. It's in the end of Turkey. So they needed to be together. But if you see in Syria now, the climate between Russia and Turkey, it's deteriorating. And you have also Libya, when Turkey and Russia are just at the opposite side. So you see, it's very, very complicated. About the lack of influence management, I totally agree about this, because there is, I will not say that there is no long-term vision. It's because the region, it's not the main priority. Like I mentioned, the main priority are outside the region. So it's just a tool. And secondly, it's about politicians. We used to say that politics are dealing with regime, diplomats are dealing with nation and countries, if you understand what I mean. So the problem that they are not competing, taking into account population, nation, needs. They are just dealing with regime, and the regime can change. And so it's why it's not about it's not a long-term management, because they are not understanding sometimes what Mark said about history, about culture, about anything like that. It's just on the short term, and on the short term vision. What I would like also to mention about what's happening in the big region, that now we have a turn. We mentioned regularly about the Trump administration and its way of doing business in the region. And now we have Biden administration. And we have we are still in need to know what will be the future with the Biden administration, what they will be able to achieve, what will be the guidelines, because it will have a big impact on the relationship with Russia and China, of course, but also with Turkey. Turkey about the NATO, this problem, because as you know, Turkey was partner for buying the F-35 fighter jets, and now it's a little cancelled because Turkey both also the S-400 air defense system from Russia, and so it's not compatible. But what is very good now, it's that even inside NATO, we had this a very big issue between Greece and Turkey, and they are speaking again together. They are starting from this last week. The people are speaking again, so it's maybe in resolving this endless. We don't know this also. This what will be the way to address the problem with Iran. Iran is also this a big player in the region, but we don't know this, how the US will address the problem of JCPOA. We address about how is it just getting back to the former JCPOA? No, it's not more possible. So we discussed with Dr. Syed about that, because the situation, it's not the one which prevailed in 2015. It's not the one which prevailed in 2018. It's totally different. So getting back to the normal JCPOA, no way. It will be JCPOA 2.0 with some influence from other partners of the region. But Saudi, it's a regional power. But how will be the relationship between MBS and Biden? Because you have the war in Yemen, you have also everything about human rights. It was told that Israel offered to Saudi, to UAE, to deal to make some interface with Biden to decrease the pressure about human rights in that country. It will work or not, I don't know. Yes. It's what I could say about the presentation of Dr. Syed, and also about your question. Thank you.
How about Syed? Your response to Eric, or we just open? So now we just open the discussion. Oh, Syed, you're